Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Sherpa podcast. I'm your host, Brian Marshall, where we shine a spotlight on great resources for the C-Suite. We've got a really cool resource that I can't wait for you to meet. I'm with Aaron today. So, Aaron, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business?
Brian, thanks so much for having me on the show. The Collab Team is my business. We've been around about 10 years. We help businesses who are scaling and are starting to feel things start to rattle as they climb. As they start to break down, they usually reach out to us. We're 99% referral business. I don't do a lot of ads. It's just friends referring me to friends, referring me to friends, where we come alongside and we do a gap analyzer on their business and see where it is that they have gaps on their team. And then I suggest, why don't you let me put my team into your team, hold the space on those gaps, SOP out those roles, and then we'll go out and recruit for you, help you bring you back the best recruits, hire with you, onboard them for you, and then exit and still become like that expert ops person on your team that your team can go to. That way you're able to still continue climbing without having to slow down.
So, for someone who's listening to this and they may not know what SOP means,
Sure.
gap analysis means, so let's say I'm CFO of a business or I'm owner of a business and I've got some issues. What are those issues that you solve, and how do I know that I need your help?
Yeah, typically what happens is I'm usually dealing with owners, operators, people that have started businesses. They've been able to grow because they're really good at marketing or really good at sales, but what they suck at is operations. So then they've
Yeah.
gone out and they've found their family or friends or neighbor down the street that will just jump in and take that part of the business that they don't want to handle. And that's enabled them. But what they start finding is that what got them there isn't going to allow them to scale. And so that's usually when they start asking their friends that are running businesses also and say, hey, like I just feel like I have a breakdown in team, or I feel like I have a breakdown in tech, or I feel like I'm breaking down in our sales process, or how our finances are working out. And then that's usually when we get referred to folks. Hey, I'm experiencing some sort of rattling. I can feel it as I'm making the climb. Things are starting to rattle, and I'm really nervous. The technology I'm using, or the team I've got on deck, or the process of selling and how profitable we are isn't as solid as I would like to be. That's not my genius. Do you have somebody who could help me? And then that's usually how I get referred to folks.
Yeah, it's a great point. We see this a lot with our business too. We work with a similar business profile, and the thing that makes a founder great ultimately becomes the thing that causes them to plateau. They have a tendency to be in charge of everything. They don't really delegate well. And even if they could, they're not really sure what a good one looks like. So it sounds like you're helping to fill that gap. A lot of companies can't really afford a full-time chief operating officer or a full-time resource. Do you work on a fractional basis, or what does that look like for somebody who's looking to fill that gap?
Yeah, I would say our ideal avatar is somewhere between that like $1 and $10 million avatar that, has experienced some great success. They've started to build a team around them. They have somebody doing day-to-day duties, but they identified that those people aren't the best and they're not sure in their capabilities to get them to the next level, or they have recognized there are gaps and they're feeling overwhelmed. And they're like, I don't want to overhire. So that's usually where people will bring us in. And the beauty is that we do have a couple different levels where people can come and contract with us. We'll step in and not just consult with them, but be part of the solution, where I'll put team on their team where there's gaps and then help that operator or help those people that are doing those duties so that they have somebody in the day to day that's their own internal person, but there's somebody from the outside that's able to coach them up a little bit and then take on some of the load or provide other solutions. What you just find is that regardless of the vertical, operations is pretty much operations. And when you've seen how so many people have done it, you can come with best solutions that people have paid us a lot of money to figure out for them, and then you're able to just employ that in your business. So it really helps folks to make fast progress without having to slow down.
You mentioned a couple of key things. One, you're right. They really don't know how to do this, and they don't know what good procedures and process look like. So do you help create the standard operating procedures? Do you formalize those? Do you put them into a system? What's the outcome of that besides filling in that gap with a resource? How do you help them go from, using you as a service to actually bringing that talent in and actually creating an internal capability?
Yeah, so let's bring it down out of the ether and make it really practical. Let's say we come in and we've identified that your CRM isn't good. A lot of folks are still using spreadsheets when we come to them, or they're using a system that was great in those, like maybe a couple of 100,000, maybe climbing up to even the first million, but it just wasn't intended to be able to scale you to that next level. So we come in, identify, hey, what piece of tech are you using? Why don't you let me put a technician into your team, somebody that's good at tech? We can identify your tech stack and see what you're using and how things are communicating, see where there are breakages in it. And then as we identify breakages and begin to fix them, we'll create standard operating procedures for, hey, as you roll out this next campaign, as you roll out this next challenge, as you roll out this next launch, these are the things you need to be thinking about. Your landing page, how you're communicating with these people as they come in, how you're fulfilling on the back end, how that ascends people through your customer journey at next offer that you're coming up to next. So as I place people into people's team, as I place my team, I have a team of 18 that I'll deploy depending on skill set. As they come in, they identify the pain point, SOP, standard operating procedure out, what the solves are. And then those are things we commit back to people as we begin to hire on for a full time and exit. We're like, hey, as you step in, these are the standard operating procedures to do the role. Then we become the resident expert. They can come back and ask us. All the keys of the kingdom are theirs, but we're the resident expert that can come alongside that person and help them succeed at their role.
Yeah, awesome. So where do you focus your energy? Is it on the West Coast only? Is it the United States? I run a company. We have clients all over the world. Where do you specialize in terms of geography?
Yeah, I think we honestly do a majority United States, but I have clients in the UK. I have clients in Australia. I've got a client that's in Thailand right now. I think that there's different clients we help in different places, but the majority of our folks are in the US.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits. You and I were talking offline about what happened back in COVID. One of the benefits is the readiness and willingness of clients to do remote work or to have people do remote work. We do a ton of remote work with people. So it sounds like you're doing some of the work remotely. You might be doing some of the work on site. Any details around that?
I would say I only have one local client. We carry about 25 to 28 clients at a time. I've got one local, so that gives you kind of everything we do is online. I think that is the beauty of the world we live in. It is so virtual. And sometimes that makes people nervous if they haven't been using a lot of virtual teams, but I've just
Right.
found typically you can set up systems to be able to figure out people and if they're getting their job done, whether they're remote or they're in person. I don't think it requires that you be on site. So we do some on-site stuff with like annual planning, maybe quarterly planning if our clients would like us there, but typically I'd say 99% of our work is online.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely know of a number of people that can use your help. And of course, the challenge is what do they need? Do they think they need help, right? It's always a question of when they're ready. It's always when the student's ready to teach or appear. So what is the biggest challenge that you see in the industries you work in or with the clients you work in? What are some of the big challenges that you're facing today with your clients and partners?
I think we've had the privilege of getting to work with some really big name folks. Once you start working with a certain caliber of people, they refer you to their friends, which is awesome. So we've got to work with great guys like Pete Vargas, Pace Morby, or John Acuff, 9-time New York Times bestseller. We've got to work with some really great people. I would say all of those guys, they're so gifted and they've got such great ideas. But I think that sometimes the danger can be too quick to pivot. Like they've got a new idea, they want to roll it out tomorrow. In the online world, when you're creating education, it's very easy to come up with a concept, already have sold it before you've built anything. And then it leads an operational team or a fulfillment team or a customer service team to really be scrambling. And then you give your people whiplash because you're pivoting so frequently. Your people are like, no, you just told me yesterday this was the best idea you've ever had. And we're going to drive down on this. So I knuckled down and I've been building into that. And now today you're repivoting. Maybe it's been a week or a month. I'd say the biggest pain point I can see from our perspective of online events, in-person events that lead to a high ticket sale, that lead to some fulfillment and education on the backside. That's a lot of what we do. The biggest danger is shiny object syndrome, chasing
Yeah.
too many things instead of just like doubling down on something works, sussing that all the way out and finding solutions and making sure that's going to continue working and it runs like a machine, then move on to your next idea. After that, move on to the next idea.
Yeah, you're right. The shiny object effect is an issue. I always called it the Netflix dilemma. There's so many things to watch, you can't pick anything. You just perpetually click through and look at previews. At least that's what my wife tells me I do. So,
Get it?
so you talked about a number of things, putting people in roles, helping operationalize and create standard operating procedures, digitizing business, looking at their tech stack. Um, where do you see things going in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see things headed, and how are you staying ahead of the curve?
I think there's a lot of question around AI. There's a lot of question on how much can be automated in my space, especially people are trying to make end-over-end process as automated as possible. I do still think there's a place where you still need an operator that's going to drive some of those things. Otherwise, the bots can take it and run it down a stream that is going to create problems for customer service because they're making assumptions that may or may not be accurate. So I would say there's probably the need to just identify what is your core business. Do you have those things really dialed in a standard operating procedure way that people know how to execute, and that you're very strategic on where you're intersecting with AI and using them in a very drilled down way, but not just releasing it? Because I think there can be a lot of danger for CEO and visionaries to get around each other, get excited. Maybe they're talking from a limited understanding place. They whip each other up. They all embrace this new piece of technology that takes it down a stream without asking, wait, what could be the longer tail on this? Like, is this going to affect our whole ecosystem well when it comes to products being sold? And so I think that there's the need to be careful, not to just jump in with both feet into solutions that seem, once again, bright and shiny and exciting, but really ask ourselves, is this going to be the best thing for my business long term? What I found best for business long term is tried and true standard systems that you can really build a solid foundation on. That's what we call our foundations that scale.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to shift gears here. We're going to do something a little bit fun, maybe a little bit of vulnerability to kind of have people get to see you, who you are and your personality. Before we do that, I want to encourage people to stick around for the next few minutes, because at the end of this, Aaron's going to tell us how to get in contact with them. And we're also going to include that contact information in the description of the video that you're watching. So let's shift gears. We're going to do the lightning round. It's going to be quick questions, quick answers. If you're ready, I'll roll.
Do it.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
If you can only grab one item right when the zombie apocalypse starts, what would it be?
My laptop.
Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Everyone gets lost.
Favorite movie?
I would say Gladiator.
Favorite streaming series?
Ted Lasso.
Do you have a favorite book, a book that you've read that's been highly influential, something you'd recommend?
I would say there's a book I've been reading a lot lately. It's called Becoming a King, that I think is a great book that's out there. Yeah.
All right, great. All right, bucket list. So give me a bucket list item that you've already accomplished.
I own a coffee business down in Belize, and we're expanding every day. First drive-through coffee in the country of Belize.
Awesome. Bucket list item you haven't accomplished yet.
I would like to make that franchisable in the country of Belize, and then spend a little bit more time down there.
Great. And then biggest obstacle that you've had to personally overcome, and one big takeaway that you got from that.
I had a business fail back in 2008. I owned a retail business that had been doing really well, but then we came into the crisis, the housing crisis, and then the double punch of the retail crisis, and I just couldn't make it work. I had to wind it down, but it was the best learning experience for me because it makes me relatable talking to owners. I've had to fold something down. No, I know the humiliation. I understand the shame. I know what it's like having to get a U-Haul and sell wares out of the back of a U-Haul just to try and recapitalize your cash, to be able to redeploy it in something new. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, don't let it make you freeze up or not try again just because you failed, because I found that actually makes you more valuable.
Yeah, and I would add, don't be afraid to fail. And don't be afraid to share it with other people, because that's the biggest and probably the most valuable lesson you'll ever learn come from your failures. Success is not a great teacher, failure is. I appreciate you sharing that. So if someone's watching this and they want to get in touch with you, how would they collaborate with you and get in touch? What's the best way?
Honestly, the best way is any of the socials. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at the Collab Team. You could find us there, or the website, thecollabteam.com is the best places to be able to get a hold of me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll make sure we put all that in the description so people can read through. We'll take the about section, create that for you, and put your contact information. If you're thinking about a resource in this area, I definitely recommend reaching out to Aaron and his team. Aaron, great having you on the podcast. Appreciate you being a guest today.
Yeah, Brian, thanks so much, man. Such an honor to be here with you.